us. He is a master gardener. He is also a world traveler, and he's going to be talking about some of the wonderful gardens he's visited in Britain. So please give him a Wapaka welcome.
Can you hear me? I have a loud voice, so if I get excited, I really feel sorry for the people with the groups. Anyhow, my name's Brill. I'm also almost like a professional volunteer, but I'm a docent both at the Pain Museum in Oshkosh and at the Botanical Garden in Brill. Okay. That's better. Okay. I was told not to stand too close.
No, I said you.
Okay. And you're one of the few women that's shorter than I am. Anyhow, we're going to talk about Southwest England, and this trip was taken at this time. So everything you're going to see is if you were there today, you would have been able to see. Southwest England, before I start, your library has this book. If you plan on going to England and you want to see gardens, this is 1001 Gardens You Must See Before You Die. 45% of them are in the British Isles. It's a worldwide book. The thing about it is if there's some place that you're going to, you can look in here and you can at least see a great garden on your trip wherever you're going. I use this book all the time. There's the handout I'll talk about later, but all the gardens you're going to see are on this handout. All but 3 have websites. All but 2 have websites. All but 3 are in this book. So, I'll get going real fast because we got a ton of gardens. Okay. Southwest England is where the English go in May to see gardens. It's subtropical. Subtropical plants can grow there. So, this is Cornwall. We won't be going there, but what you would have seen in Cornwall. There's some really great gardens there, but this trip I'm going to do Cornwall someday as a standalone trip. This is Devon. This is Dorset. This is Somerset. And I always forget. This is Somerset. This is Wiltshire. And above that, I think this is Gloucester. What they have is a lot of coast on both sides. This is the English Channel, the start of the English Channel. This is the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? So we're going to just go along. I'm going to learn how to do this left hand. Okay. So my wife's a Thomas Hardy fan. We got off the plane in London, and we flew into Gatwick. We took a bus directly from the airport to Winchester. My wife's a Thomas Hardy fan. I'm a Jane Austen fan. We went to Winchester for me so I could see Jane Austen's grave and her house where she lived at the end of her life in Charlton. So this is Thomas Hardy's house in Dorchester. He was an architect before he became an author, and he designed that house. That's my wife. You'll see her a lot. It's not because I wanted you to see pictures of her. It's to give you proportions and size so that you can have an idea of what you're seeing. So we're going to start out in Dorset. This is Minturn Magna, and it's real close to the birthplace of Sir Walter Raleigh. This house replaced a house in 1902. The old house had dry rot. They built a house. I'm not going to talk much about the houses. This is a privately owned house. This house is open to the public. They have a little cigar box, and you put a donation in. They tell you they'd like 5 pounds, but they don't. You know, I always do what they say. My wife's the rule follower. Okay, so you're walking in, this is the front of the house, you're walking into the property, and we're gonna go along the side the drive goes, and we're walking along the side of the house, and there's a, they call that a lake, but it's a dammed river, and it's not really a lake. But anyhow, we're gonna walk, this is the back, and we're walking into the garden. Now, this garden was started by the family in 1790. Okay? And what they did was, in 1790 and also in the Regency time, people took strolls. And the Japanese would call this a stroll garden also. But what they did was they were on a plant list and got plants from all the world. These are almost all rhododendrons. We're going through this path, and it goes on forever. There's just an idea on size again. There's camellias also. There is camellia. Now, if I had a sport foot, I could put it in my buttonhole. Palm trees. We're 40 miles from either the Atlantic Ocean or, at this point, or the English Channel. And they're growing palm trees. That's an azalea. This is part of the stream that was dammed up. This is the stream coming down. One person who maintains all this was making a bench for the public when I was there. That's the bench, almost completed. I'm looking up the side of a hill that's 30, 40 feet high. It's covered with, oh. Okay, we're going up the stream. We're going up. There's the dam. Now, it took me, I'm trying to do this talk quickly, but it took us about 2 hours to see the whole thing. So now we're coming up to where the dam is. We're going up some paths and some different paths. Some more palm trees. There's a lower path and a higher path. And now, Ansel Hamilton House in Dorset was closed for a wedding the day we came there, and we didn't go in it. I wasn't too upset because they're known for the topiary, and you see pictures of topiary. Topiary in England's huge thing. It doesn't interest me. I'm never going to be able to have the patience to maintain it. They have. I'll show you some things that are actually trimmed in some gardens that are 40 feet, 30, 40 feet high. But anyhow, this is Thomas Hardy's grave. This is Thomas Hardy's grave. He's not buried there. He's buried in Westminster Abbey. My wife and I went there, but his heart is there, buried there. He said he would allow them to put him in Poets Corner, but his heart had to stay with his first wife. This is Kingston Lacey. In the English Civil War, there was a Corfe Castle was owned by the family that owned this, and they were supporters of the king, and they held out for like ever until they had a traitor. But the lady who was
handling the siege. The husband was out fighting, and the lady who was defending the castle was given the key to the castle afterwards because of how brave she and her troops were. So they built this neat house, and there's a nice formal garden. This is one. This is off one side of the house. This is another. These. Those are called clouds. Those are trimmed to look like that, and some of those get to be 40 feet tall. I think those are about 30. Is that again? Oh, that is a cedar of Lebanon, my favorite tree. It's a very old cedar of Lebanon. In about 1750, cedars of Lebanon got planted in England. It was a status symbol, especially during the Regency period. So everybody had to plant them. They have a Japanese garden on this. This is National Trust owned. If you go to England, I recommend joining the Royal Oak Society here. I think it's $95 for a couple membership. We maintain one, but you just have to buy it that 1 year. You get a pass to all National Trust properties. You go to 2.5 homes and gardens, and the two of you paid for your membership, and everything else is free and you can only go so many places. They have over 800 houses. This Japanese garden was built around 1900. There's another view of the house. That's me in front of the house. They have, this is Montague House. This is another National Trust property. This is famous for, it has features of an Elizabethan house that are no longer standing in any other house. We'll show those. This was the original, the way the coach would come in. Now that it's National Trust property, they have a huge parking lot. You enter, you don't come in the same way. This is looking out on the property. That fountain was built and operated, before 1600. Notice the statues, and I should have pointed out in the house the windows. The person who built this house is sticking his nose up to his neighbors because houses were taxed by window panes. And this house has a ton of window panes. The last Viceroy of India lived in this house. He had rented it from the National Trust. This is an orangery, and this was probably added slightly after the house was built. That's one of 2 banqueting rooms. They could decide to have a party, and their servants would bring. It's just a place to have a party. There's 2 of them. Everything's proportional. There's the other one, and then the view. Everything in England is view. This one will, well here, this looks as good as the slaughter did. There's another one, but everything down here is just a long view of what the English like. I took this house is completely like this inside. I mean, all that's plaster ceilings were, that's identical to the library in the Payne, the same system. Those were handmade on scaffolds. So the people there had to lie on their back and make the design in the plaster ceilings. There's another view. That's the gardener's house. This is my favorite. I mean, if there was one that I could live in, this would be it. It's a nice house. It would be considered a nice house, but it's not a mansion. But it's perfectly proportioned. On the back side, it still looks like the farmhouse it originally was. So the front has a really neat. Now, walking down here, this is going the other direction. Now we don't have the sun problem. The sun's where we want it. These things here, right here, that's called pudding shape. And that's how an English pudding would be put on the plate. It would look like that shape. You have this formal walk going down. Now remember, this is May, so it's spring plants. And they start getting spring plants in end of January. They're snowdrops and things are, which I got in 1st of April, they have at the end of January. So this is still that first courtyard. There's just all kinds of little areas which you can walk through. This is the vegetable garden. And there's the sheep. Now, we're going back from the vegetable garden into another garden that's alongside the garden. We're walking back towards the house, but we're on the, we turned to the right and we made 2 right turns and we're in another garden. There's a lady named Hop House who writes a lot of English gardening books. She lived in this house for 17 years and ran it for the National Trust. Penelope Hop House. Now see how the scalloping on the walls? They just have, their walls in England are made out of the same stone that the houses are, and they're really kind of neat. This is my wife's favorite place, it's the tea room. That's a wisteria, and that's one of her favorite plants, and they smell wonderful. There's another view. Now, East Lambert Manor is the home of Marjorie Fish, who was the person who invented cottage gardening, reinvented cottage gardening. She and her husband, she married her boss, and they were both beyond when people normally got married. They bought this manor house. He was the publisher or the editor of a newspaper in London, and so they created a garden. She had never gardened. They were both Londoners, and she never gardened. And she got interested in native plants. All these plants that you'll see here are native to England. Now, they do have a small nursery here. I got to be real friendly with the owner. They don't make any money, but they're happy. This is, she called her ditch garden, and all those plants require a lot of water, and that was a ditch that's most of the time has, every time it rains, there's water in it. So.
What is the blue flower there in that last image?
I'm not certain, because what happens is, you're talking about which of the 3? They're all a shade of blue. I'm not certain. I think, I don't want to hazard a guess, but I'm glad you brought me back to this picture. That's a wattle fence. There's people who still make these. And they're made out of
willow branches or beech branches. And that's all moving. And then it's with a stake there, and then it's all, they have them all over this place. I'm not sure on the plants because they're not marked. And I didn't look, I had so much time. So I'm going to say that's going to be my answer on any plant question. I'm going to show you one plant that every Englishman loves to own. This is all that house. There's some more puddings. That is a Scottish hyssop, the national flower of Scotland. We got to see it from all. Oh, there's her foundry. Barrington Court is a National Trust property. It's really hard to get to. It's worth it if you get there, but it has some. Another four-letter word is lane, L-A-N-E. That means that if you come up to another car, you have to figure out how you're going to get out. Okay, anyhow, the lane that goes to getting here is really, really tight. It's only one car lane, but we're going to go through this pretty quick. This is an Elizabethan house. This is actually the house. This building here is the stable. I'm going to concentrate on the stable more, but you can tell an Elizabethan house. I forgot to do this on the first one I showed you. An Elizabethan house was built, and it was built to impress the Queen. And so, how do you make the Queen know you're a loyal subject? You make your house in the shape of an E. This is the center part. This is the top and bottom of the E. This would be the side of the E. So all Elizabeth houses are in the shape of an E, or they didn't get credit. There's another view of the stable. Gertrude Jekyll designed this garden originally for the National Trust in 1920 or something. There's another garden, which is tons of gardens here too. Part of it's molded. Those are called copper beeches, the hedge. I don't think of that as copper. I think it's dark. I mean, it looks darker than copper to me. I always imagined that before I ever saw them. I always thought they were copper colored, what we call copper. There's a nice 2-acre garden, vegetable garden, all walled. There's the scarecrow. This is another. These pergolas are incredible. This is a huge garden of pergolas. Okay. See the pretty pond inside the building? That's in the center of the stable. Now they use the stable. I mean, they've converted the stable into entertainment rooms or shops or. I mean, I could get into the stable to take that picture, not expecting that I was going to ever see anything. I was shocked when I saw that. Okay. Now, when I went to Marjorie Fish's house, the owner of that house said to me, drop your next 3 gardens and go here instead. Now, this is the only one that's not, this is one of 2 gardens. Barrington Court and this one are the only 2 gardens that aren't in the 1001 gardens. This hasn't been open since 1926, and he said I can get you in on I can take you there. we can get you there. So I went there. This is an Elizabethan house, late Elizabethan. There's a complement. There's another part of the E. This would be the center of the E. Doesn't have to be real pronounced. But Harold Pito was one of my favorite landscape designers. He has 5 gardens that are in that book. He died in the 1930s, but this was his sister's house, and he designed her garden. And we're going to walk around. We came, I'm going to go back previous. We came into the garden this way, and then we came this way, and then the next picture you see, we're coming back. So we're walking, we're zigzagging through the garden. I have a book on Harold Pito. I have black and white photos, and it looks, the day the pictures were taken in the teens or turn of the century, it looks just like it did then. There's only one gardener here. You're going to be amazed at how much there is to see here. Now we're walking. She's going as far. That's my wife going as down the path, and you're as far away on the upper garden as you can get away from the house. And she's going to go down, and there's the house again, and there's an addition Harold Pito made. So this is just taking this again here. I like the view. I took this view because it had, that's called a loggia. It's a porch with a roof on it. We're going to go inside. Harold Pito built tons of gardens in England, and he was an architect. He broke up his partnership and agreed never to design a house in England, but he designed houses in Italy and France and gardens in England and all those places. He collected statues from Europe and also, well, France and I'm trying to think, Italy, and including Roman stuff. And we're going to see his garden shortly. This is a garden room that leads to a courtyard. And when you go through to the courtyard, you can have tea, because she had this event open, and I was able to get invited, and there was tea in the courtyard. I was just taking I was just interested in the types of things that Harold Pito brought back with him. He gave to us. This is the view. We're in Somerset. This and back is Dorset. We're right on the border. Oh. Excuse me. This is something called the National Garden thing. In 1926, this was founded for a church, for a hospital, program by the Queen of England at that time, that would be Queen Mary. And people opened their houses like one day a week. This house was open in the original time once in 1926, and the charity got the owners to agree to open it up for the day I came. But if you go to if you're traveling and you're in a town and you see a nursery or a garden shop, and you walk in a garden shop because you can't resist it, they have the county, every county is in here, but they give out free the county you're in at garden shops, 10, 20 pages, and you could find a garden that's only open once, and you would find it in this book, and you just have to make a donation to the charity to get in. But we're going to go, I got to go quick now. I'm talking too much. Now, he was famous for his hardscaping, so this is just looking down. We're gonna go down this, we just came down the stairs, we're on another layer. This garden here would be, that's a border that is a summer border, and we're in May, and none of the perennials are up and blooming. So I sort of skipped that. We're going through a woodland garden. Another one, part of it. This is also part of it. This is looking back at the balustrades that we were walking along on the upper garden. There's a picture of my bride and I, and this is the pergola, this is where we came from, there's the stairs. So then we're going to, there's a long tennis court, or you can play bowls, or you can play croquet there, depending on how they set it up. We're looking back at the house, and we're going through this woodland garden. This is looking out the side in the pastures. There's another view. So we're going to just keep going. We're going to go down this fence. We're back in another, weaving in and out. Her brother left her all kinds of statuary and things. There's ponds in here. There's really good trees, there's rhododendrons. I ended up liking this so much, if you come to my garden, you can see this at home now. I just love the wildness of this. I have a small yard and I try to make it look big. That is leaves. That is a sycamore, I think. These are some sort of azalea or rhododendron. I just got 4 hours. Millions. Those are the people. This man came all the way from Oxford just to go to this garden because it's the only Harold Petal garden in England he hadn't been to. That Wayford Manor and one of 2 that do not have a website. So on this list, every place here, Wayford Manor does not have a website. So you won't be able to look up. This is Hestercombe. Gertrude Jekyll and a man named Ted Luchins, I think his real name was Edwin. Anyhow, they designed this garden, and the man who owned this house said that he wanted to have a garden that would make people forget about how ugly his house was. Okay? So, now, if you came here in the summertime, this would have all kinds of color. This is spring plants. But you'll get a good idea here. So we're gonna. So I just from a website wanted you to get to see the garden. So I just picked 3 shots from their website, just because I was there in May. This is the upper garden. There's about a 80-acre garden where you walk around, and it has some follies and temples and things. I don't think they had the best architect, but it's a really nice garden. That half of the garden was designed by the original owner in the 1700s. But this is Edward Luchins. He liked circles. He liked circular stairs. And, he liked places where people could sit in a circle and just talk. This is a Luchins bench.
They're sold all over the world. It's one of the most famous types of benches. There's my bride. We were at another garden during a rainstorm, and I got her that handmade hat. That's wool, but it was waterproof. This is the upper garden. This is where all the water comes from. There's a lake here, and you walk around that lake, and I didn't put any pictures there because this is the only building that Lucian's designed on the property, and this is an orangery. This is local stone, and this is flint. This is the soft mellow stone of the area, like the houses you've seen have been built with. There's another picture of it. Here's a circular pond, another circular pond. Flint and the combination of different stones. He liked using native stones. This is a view from the terrace of the house, looking down at the garden. There's two of these canals on each side of that big garden. This is looking down at it. This is looking at where we just were looking down at it. Okay? This is looking away from, I just turned around and looked away at it, so that's the end of it. Sometimes there's more water than they want. There's enough places here so that this can fill up with water. So they actually built the walkways on each side on pedestals so that could change. Really clever. There's a better view of where we just came. We just came down this stairs, looked at this, came down like that. There it is looking down. This also gives you a depth of that canal. See how deep it is? There's Lucian's curved steps. The first picture I showed you was underneath the pergola in the shade, taking the picture. That's a really long pergola, all stone pedestals. There's a better view of it. There's that original picture. You notice there's another terrace here. I didn't go down there to take a picture of the garden from there, but I could have. Didn't think about it until just this minute. So now, I threw this in because a lot of people go to baths. This is the Roman baths. The English didn't even know it existed until 1890. Pardon?
Do you have any photographs of, say, some of these places 50 years ago and 100 years ago?
No, I don't. I do have a book of the Pico book where you wouldn't know difference today. I mean, in the two Pico gardens, you wouldn't know. The only difference is they're black and white. And the neat thing about black and white pictures of flowers is you see the leaves, you see the texture. You don't really notice the texture in a color photo; it's lost. But I don't add historical photos. I hadn't thought about it. I have enough. I got to get going. This is looking down through the back. This is Georgiantown. Two Jane Austen books were had happened in Bath. So this is just thought that this is a circular, curve-shaped building. This was a real expensive apartments at the turn in the late 17th century. Now we're going to Eifert Manor, which is Harold Pico's house, and that's
You take a small 10-minute train ride on a little tiny train, and then you take a cab and you get to this place. You come over this bridge. Harold Pito added this. This was a British, that's Britannia, and it was carved in Dorset. And he wasn't far from Dorset, where he found that. That's the only part of his garden that we can't go into. This is the owner's private place to go. She likes topiary, so she made the sofa, the setting, that's actually topiary. Pito had these statues all over the place, but we're going to go. That's his house, and the house is built up a hill, so this floor walks out right into the hill. There's a terrace there, but we're going to, this was a loggia that was added. So we're going to go up a hill. These are Roman, brass Roman. These were all things that Harold Pito brought from his trips. Let's see, we're on the top of there. There's this terrace on top. And we're looking down at, there's part of the terrace looking from another area. But the hill is forever. There's terraces on both sides. I'm below it with the wisteria weeping down. I just like that look. Statues are along, he called that terrace the Appian Way. There's a full-length picture. He built, there at one time, there was supposedly a monastery here, so he built a chapel here. That's this building here. And this is a monument to King Edward VII. He brokered a treaty between Russia and Japan and ended the Japanese-Russian War. And Harold Pito was a big fan of Edward VII, so he had that statue made. That's up towards the top of the hill. It takes a lot just to maintain this place. It's privately owned, and she's open to the public quite a bit. This place, I'm sure, has a website. It's Romulus and something else. Rings, yeah. Okay. I'm bad on those. Another statues. All these little nooks and crannies. Then there's all kinds of woodland plants, but it's all steep uphill walking, and I didn't get that. This is an actual sarcophagus, and this came from Rome. It's Roman times. There's another path going into the woods. Trying to look up at the woods. And if it ever rains and you're doing a garden walk, he didn't want his company not to be far from shelter, so there's all these types of shelters. Another Roman statue that he brought back. So that's, now, this is Stewart Head. It was really, I've been to it before. If I hadn't been to it before, I would have done it on this trip. This is the best English landscape. An English landscape garden has buildings and views, and it's all landscape with trees and shrubs. It's not about flowers, but this has beautiful rhododendrons. In May, it would have been worth the trip. I had been there, and so I was trying to get as many gardens I hadn't seen in my lifetime in, and I didn't. If you ever did go, I highly recommend it. Fullerton, I was there and it was pouring rain. The family that owned this really spent years building their garden. They have all the same type of things that we've seen. They have two things that I only kept. I went through this really quick, but I wanted to make sure I showed you this. This is a bear hut. The owner in about 1880 was in Canada and got a Canadian bear and had this house that has stained glass windows, and that's where the bear lived. This is one of the first quarry gardens ever made. They had all the stonework and things on the property were taken from the property. They had their own quarry, and at the turn in like 1890 or 1900, the wife had 20 gardeners come in here and plant this. It's absolutely gorgeous, but it was pouring. There's one other view with spring. Remember, I'm limited by what's blooming in spring. So the rhododendrons and things, you didn't need to see more rhododendrons, but that's the side of the house. Nightshades was a house that was built at the turn of about 1880 or 1890. And the owner of it, the second owner, his son married a woman golf star, and so Bobby Jones is staying here. This is a property that had been landscaped by a man named William Kent, and this is a landscape, an English landscape garden where the view is everything. That is another cedar Lebanon I just wrote. This is just looking into gardens, and they built gardens into the woods like this. And this is the largest. Well, I guess you'd call it. They call it a kitchen garden, but it's like 4 acres complete. This is up a hill. That's an incredible garden. A really big kitchen garden. We're going to, in Abbotsbury, we stopped at it's famous for two things. Abbotsbury was called Abbotsbury because until Henry VIII dispersed the abbots, this was where an abbey, a very rich abbey that had an abbey here that was torn down. There was also a castle here that burnt down. So I don't get to show you that. But this is where swans breed. The number one thing you could do to really impress people is get to be one of the 6 or 7 Knights of the Garter. And Knights of the Garter have a black hat with a white feather in it. The white feather comes from these swans. And this is how this is a breeding area that's been here since the 9th century. There's a baby swan, ugly duckling. There's mother with her. So now we're going into, this is one of the most popular gardens in England. It's a subtropical garden, but it's right by the water. So they can do things that you can't do 40 miles from the water. So we're going to go through there. That's just showing you pine trees. It's thick woods. Very tropical. You feel like you're in the jungle. They have a cafe that looks was built to entertain the owner's friends, and it looked like it came from an English colony like Burma, or it's called the colonial style building. I have a picture of that. Now, the neat thing about this is there's all kinds of changes of altitude. So somebody can be walking over a bridge here, and I'm walking over them as they get past. I'm on another bridge. Okay? So, and then there's another bridge here. This was one of the few areas where you could get a view of the whole thing in one shot. So we're walking through all these types of things. I picked plants that we haven't seen. This is a different type of pine. Now, you see this. A lady in 1280 or something was, a Christian lady, was raped and killed at that spot. And that's, the abbots built a memorial to her. Now, aren't I lucky to catch that picture? I'm going to show it to you with that's with a telephoto lens. Then I'm going to show you, see where my wife's standing? That's in case it's raining so you can still take that picture. These people were from Wales. We had a really great time with them. We were walking through the gardens together. And we got to get going. There's the colonial style building I was talking about. Yeah, the wealthy people ended up turning these into gardens, into paying businesses. This garden gets huge attendance. Oh, this is the plant I've been waiting for. See how it's really rare to have a blue flower in a shrub. In England, people die for this. They go and they buy it. And it's called a ceanensis. It's the same family as a New Jersey tea plant. It's also called a ceanensis. And the New Jersey one is white and short. This one gets pretty big, and it's considered a weed in California. They just love them. Because of the colder temperature, they don't have a problem with it the seed setting, and they don't have it's not considered a weed there. It's considered a great plant. I just love it for the color. This was when there was a castle. This was where you walked down to the castle originally. Okay. We're going to do London area gardens. When I get, I'm doing this real quick. The idea is if anybody goes to England, they for sure go to London usually. So just so I point out some real quick ones, I have a whole talk that's as long as this one. So this one here is Sir Richard Branson's private garden. It does not have a website. It's on top of his office, and I got in there. But it is in the 1001 garden book. And we're on top of his office building, and it's a 2-acre garden on top of an office building in London. It's actually in Kensington. And the original owner of the building this garden was built for, it was a department store originally. That's an English duck. I have. Every time I see one of these, I have a picture of it. Now this is Kew Gardens. This is an English architect's idea of a pagoda. He didn't know one thing. A real pagoda has an odd number of roofs. This is even. So his name is Chambers. This is a Japanese building that was there. I thought that was neat. This is 360 acres, so I'm going to skip over it. This bird attacked me. He was over here. He saw that I was looking at him, and he just came right into my face. But that's a peacock. There, we're still there. This is to give you the height. This is rhododendrons again in London. These are American azaleas. One of the kings, George II, didn't like London and built this little palace, and this was where he lived because they called him Farmer George. This is where he lived. This is the gardens, they're really kind of cool. This is, in my other talk, I go into it more. This is the largest glass house left in England. There was a bigger one made for the 1854, but it was bombed by the Germans. In 1854, they had like one of the first World's Fairs. This is just a park walking down the street that belongs to this church. This is the Chelsea Physics Garden next to the Oxford Botanical Garden. This is the oldest garden in England. This is Sir John Sloane. He owned Chelsea. Well, this is in Chelsea. He gave this to the apothecaries for £5 a year rent. It's $1 billion piece of property today, and they keep it by paying their £5 every year, £5 every year, $7.80 or something like that. But it's a really neat garden, and it's got a great restaurant in their headquarters building. And there's it's part of it, but they have all kinds of things. This is the Royal Horticultural Society garden in Wisley. It's 250 acres. It's just it's incredible. I'm not sure what I picked. I just wanted to quickly get people to see that. I was hoping that there it is. This is a Henry Moore statue. 15 of us can sit or stand in between here. You can see it forever. But Henry Moore is the most famous modern sculptor in England, or was. This is the Kyoto Garden that's in Holland Park in London. This is free. The Japanese came and built a little tiny, it's in the 1001 Gardens. All of these have been in the 1001. There's another picture of part of it. Then we're leaving Holland Park. Holland House here was a private home, and it was turned into a park. I just like this water feature. This is Kensington Garden. This is brand new. This is where Prince William lives, and this garden was just rebuilt, and opened to the public the week we got there. So this is the Orangery. It's a great place for going and having tea. It's a good place to have lunch, and it has Prince William's favorite dessert. It's called an Eton mess. And it's sort of like a champagne with lots of fruit. That is, I had to put this one in. It's my only picture I ever took of Prince Charles. That's Prince Charles getting out. This is the office buildings at Kensington Palace. I just happened to be on the Palace Park property line when they landed. And so I was able to walk there, and this is taken without a telephoto lens. If I was at I was as close to Fat Gretchen's as I am to him as I would be to Little Fat Gretchen's. It's about that distance. This is in Hyde Park. I just think that's a really neat sculpture. This is massive. Horse sculpture. This is the Albert Memorial, and this is the Albert Hall, considered the most perfect by musicians as a place to play. This is also in the park. I just wanted to show a lot of free gardens. Sissinghurst Castle you should go to, and that would be a day trip. And you could go to Great Dixter, you could probably find a day trip that went to both. They're only 25 miles apart. This one was the home of Christopher Lloyd. Your library has this book by Christopher Lloyd. He was a real famous gardener. His was real intense. His garden looked like this 12 months out of the year, this bed. He has a book.
Beautiful thing.
Yeah, he has, I'm going to go backwards. The previous one is Vita Sackville West's garden. This is the most visited garden in England by Americans. There's a garden called Hidcote in the Cotswolds, which is the most famous garden visited by English. It's the most visited garden by English. Hidcote was designed by a man named Johnson, who was American, and Vita Sackville West was an English lady. I remember one thing. I read a lot of her things. She wrote articles, but when she talks about plants, she would get rid of plants she didn't feel were doing a good job, and she said, she would always say that plant was not paying the rent. Okay, so now, Chelsea Flower Show. That was the other reason I went in May. I wanted to see the tropical gardens, the rhododendrons and the camellias and that. Chelsea Flower Show is, actually, this year it's on right now. This is the Isle of Jersey. Queen Elizabeth owns that. That's a private island that she owned from the time of William the Conqueror. He owned it, she owns it. Jersey, Sark, and I'm trying to think, Guernsey. They're on the coast of France. But they were advertising. This is a park area around a hospital built for war veterans, or a nursing home for war veterans, I guess we call it, who are hand-picked. The veterans are the luckiest veterans in the world. But anyhow, 14 days before this, it looks like the park, and in 14 days, all these plants are brought in and all the exhibits are there. This one was a garden, each space, a garden designer designed. This was for the people who made campers. So these are people looking at the gardens. I got into the gardens because I designed some gardens on the side, and I could get into the garden. So this is people living in line. You see the gardens on the side. But this was stated. This company came up with this new product for modern gardens, and the garden designer designed that. I think it's real attractive if you like modern. Here, it's at. I paid, I think, just under $200 for my ticket. My 2 tickets, and my wife and I were offered $1,000 for the 2 of them. I mean, it's like a sporting event. The English are big on garden. They're also big on soccer. Oh, that was a Thai exhibit inside the tent. So these are suppliers exhibiting their products inside the tents. They're outside exhibits. Some of these are vendors, some of these are gardens, showing different things. I like the flames. I know those are cool. My brother-in-law designed, was one of 2 companies that designed laminated beams for buildings. He would have loved this. Little compliment. Just gives you an idea. None of this there. 4 days later, it's all gone. Usually, they're sold to somebody and they're rebuilt at their home. Somebody can make an offer. And, there's a car. That's the end. Now, I want to explain 2 things. One is, you see the names on your list here. The ones with 1 star are on the 1001 book. So Kingston Lacey, Wayford Manor, and I think there's one other that don't have that. I forgot to put the stars for Sissinghurst and Wisley and the London ones. All the London ones on this list are 1001 gardens.
there's many others that you can see. I have my phone number on top. I live in Neenah. If you're planning a trip to England, you have some questions, I love to talk about it, so just give me a call. Last but not least, I'm doing this as an advertisement. They're not me. I'm on the committee that picks right now, if you were homeless in Wapaka, you would be sent to Appleton to what's now called the Homeless Connection. It used to be called the Appleton Emergency Shelter. And we're the only place that takes families in. Anyhow, we've had a garden walk for 25 years, and I'm on the committee that picks the gardens. On July 11th, there's a garden walk, and it starts in Winchester. So you only have to drive 25 miles to the first garden. The next 5 gardens are in Neenah, and the other 2 gardens are near the mall. So there was a nice day ending up at the mall, right? Now, one of these, Silver Mist will be selling tickets, so you don't have to worry about going far to get tickets. One of the gardens is a 1904 house that was built. It's called the Hawks. It was originally called the Hawks House. Howard Hawks was a famous movie director. His father built that house. Clark Gable's been to this. All kinds of movie stars in the 30s and 40s. This garden has never been open to the public before. So what happened is it probably was a rose garden in back, but now there's tall trees, so it's planted different. But all the hardscaping and everything is exactly the same as in 1904. It's gorgeous. The house isn't open, but it's a gorgeous. It's on the National Historical sites. We have a lot of other gardens, and they're all real good. Last but not least, I'm also a docent at the Payne. Starting in June 20th, we have the costumes from Dalton Abbey. And we have the best English garden, one of the 2 best English gardens in America. They picked us, they picked Winterthur, which is in Montholm, and they picked the Broadmoor, the North Carolina home of the Vanderbilts. The only 3 places in the whole United States that have that exhibit. And the clothing is in mannequins that look like the people. Matter of fact, I'm told that when we get it, they're all on the mannequins, shipped 1 mannequin, all boxed, one at a time. So you'll recognize, if you've ever seen the Dalton Abbey, you would remember, it's the first 3 M's.
Don,
Yep.
is there a website for the Fox Cities Garden Walk?
Well, it would be, I didn't write it down, but if you just go Homeless Connections, it'll come up. If you just Google Homeless Connections, you get right to it. And the Payne, the same thing, just the Payne Art Center. I should know both of those by heart, but I hate computers. Anyhow, that information's on the bottom here, so you would remember. What I forgot to put down was the Homeless Connections.
So if anybody needs that information.
Yes?
Do you know what it costs for the Payne, the Dalton?
The Payne cost for that? I'm not 100% sure, because normally when we have an exhibit, it's the normal price of the exhibit. I don't know if there's a premium on that. Normally it's like $10 for adults, and there's senior and junior.
All right, let's give Dawn a hand.